Hello students, how are you all? Okay, so today we'll be covering chapter 2 of NCERT Class 6 for history. And in the last video we had covered chapter 1 of history, when, where, how and what, right? So chapter 2, continuing with the NCERT series, we will be covering today chapter number 2. So hello live students. In chapter 1 we saw different geographical locations and where did the cropping started, right? Agriculture started and wheat and barley production for the first time, where they were produced. And in chapter 2, what is the name of the chapter 2? We will first look at the name of the chapter 2, which is On the Trail of Earliest People. On the Trail of the Earliest People. Now we will be starting with the journey of the earliest people, from where they moved to which all places they moved, what all they did, what was the kind of society, the structure of society, what was the kind of the linkage between different people, the link of people and environment, animals and humans, right? Who were the animals who were domesticated for the first time, because these simple facts are being taken by UPSC and these facts are used for making the questions, right? Like who was the first animal who was being tamed by the earliest people, right? So it is given in the 6th NCERT chapter 2 and we will look at all the important information. Okay, the earliest people, why were they on the move? So chapter 1 also told us that why people were moving and how difficult, how much difficult it was for them to move. Still they were doing it. It was not impossible, it was difficult, but still they were passing the mountains, the rivers, right? And then they were going to the different areas, right? Now we will go deeper, right? Now the earliest people, why were they moving? Because of the better opportunities, right? See, subcontinent, India is called a subcontinent because of the geographical features, the mountains, rivers forming the natural boundary, right? And then 2 million years ago, we will also see the time period of these people. So this chapter will also be telling us about 2 million ago to 12,000. What happened? What happened after 12,000, right? Around 10,000 BCE and 8,000 BCE. So how questions will be formed based on these information, we will also find out. Okay, generally what people did, they hunted wild animals, caught fish and birds, and then gathered fruits, roots, nuts, seeds, eggs and leaves. So this was the variety of food that they were consuming, right? The immense variety in tropical land like India. It meant what? Gathering plant produce, and it was a very important activity to obtain the food. Okay, none of these things was easy to do. Because why it was not easy? Because of the technological backwardness, right? There was no technology, the accessibility was not there, right? Earliest people had to do everything and it was very difficult for all of them to do these things, but still they were doing, right? Run faster, they were not able to run faster than us, right? And then many that are stronger, right? Next information is to hunt animals or catch fish. What they needed to do? People need to be alert, quick and have lot of presence of mind. To collect plant produce, you need to find out which plant or parts of plant are edible. So this was the kind of thinking that they required, right? The activity, how will they hunt the animal? What technique they will use, what skill they will use, right? What weapons they will use. So all have been discussed in this chapter, right? Okay, see the skills and knowledge that was being used, right? There were at least 4 reasons for the movement of the people, right? Food being one, water being the other reason, right? So first is what? They had stayed at one place for a longer duration of time. So what would have happened? They have eaten up all the available plant and animal resources, right? And also they had domesticated animals also, right? So they also wanted what? Fodder. So for them also, therefore they would have gone to elsewhere in search of food. So the first reason that this book tells us about the movement, the reasons for movement of people is in search of food. Okay, second reason, animals move from place to place. Okay, so second activity was what? First was gathering, right? Plants, crops, producing, and then leaves they were eating, roots they were eating. Next is what? Hunting animals. So whenever they found, at whatever places they found the animals, they would go to those places. So these were the second reason. This is the second reason for the movement of people, right? So wherever they will move, either in search of small prey or in case of deer and wild cattle, this is why who hunted them had to follow their movements. Humans who hunted animals, they had to follow the animal movement. This was the second kind of reason, right? So they are just living the basic life, right? Which is what? Food, shelter, right? Drinking, water, right? Third is what? See, third reason for the movement is different seasons, right? Third, plants and animals, plants and trees bear fruit in different seasons. So seasons becoming the third reason for the movement. So many moved from season to season in search of different kind of plants. So clearly it is telling us that these were the actual 4 reasons for the movement of earliest people. Okay, fourth, people, plant and animal. They need what? Water. Water is life. Water is the most basic thing that everyone needs. Water to survive. Water was found in lakes, streams, rivers, and they were perennial, not available for the whole year, right? So because of that also, they were moving throughout the year. They were not getting, and whenever they would go in search of water during the dry season, that is winter and summer, right? So this is the paragraph that tells us about the movement. Now, how do we know about these people? From where do we know that these people were moving for food, for water, right? This kind of people came here. How many years ago they came here, right? So now how do we know about these people? So archaeologists. Who are archaeologists? Who study the past, the evidences, right? Who excavate. In chapter 1 it is clearly given that the historians, right? Archaeologists do what? Excavate and explore, right? So they study all the remains of the people, right, which were there at that time. So they study about that. Remains means what? Food crop, right? Leaves, roots and the bones of the animals, the remains, houses in which they were living. These are called the remains. Okay. Archaeologists have found some of the things hunter-gatherers made. Hunter-gatherers made and used. It is likely that people made and used tools of stone, wood and bone. See, very important information is what? They made and used tools. Tools of what? Stone, wood and bone. So it is clearly telling that stone, wood and bone were being used to make tools, right? So this question can come. Right? The earliest people were using bones, tools of which of the materials, right? So clearly it can give the question based on this information. The picture is also given. These are the kind of technology. These are their technology based on stone, right? Starting from here to the minimum size, microliths, right? Less than 5 centimeter in size. Okay. Now, some of these stone tools were used to cut meat and bone, right? Now the uses, the technology that they were using was based on stone and different kind of stone structures, and the sharpness also, it differed, right? But the uses now, so they use these tools to cut meat and bone, also scrape bark and hides, chop fruit and roots. So uses are also given. They have, and other reasons were what? They were attached, these tools, they were attached to handles of bone or wood to make spears and arrows for hunting. Clearly the uses have been given, right? You can find this. And now other tools were used to chop wood, which was used as firewood, right? Wood was also used to make huts and tools. So wood is also given, bone is also given, and stone is also given, right? And their use has clearly been given. Now look at the map. This is a very, very important map. All the map that are given, all the figures that are given in the NCERTs, probable questions come from the map. See, sites have been given: Paleolithic site, Neolithic site, megalithic, early village, right? So we know that Kirthar and Suleiman range, this is a continuity of chapter 1. In chapter 1 it is telling that the Kirthar and Suleiman ranges people, they grew wheat and barley for the first time, right? Wheat and barley was grown for the first time at this range, right? And now it will also be telling us that why Mehergarh is important, what kind of houses do we find in Mehergarh, right? So these red triangles, they represent what? The Paleolithic site, right? Hunsgi, Kurnool, Bhimbetka. UPSC 2024, the questions that were coming from the Paleolithic site, there were sites given and the items or the relevancy of the site, what was found at those sites, that was also given. So it was a match the following kind of question. So anytime this question can come that Mehergarh and Bhimbetka, what happened there? Bhimbetka is the oldest site belonging to every phase, Paleolithic phase, Mesolithic, Neolithic. We can find multiple n number of paintings we find in Bhimbetka caves, right? So red ones are Paleolithic site, the blue ones which are Halur, Payyampalli, right? Koldi Hawa, Mahagara, Chirand and Daujali Hadik. These are very, very important sites. We should know the important information related to these sites because these are asked and many times it has come. Previous year question, if you see, many questions have come from these sites. What happened in Koldi Hawa? What happened in Daujali Hadik for the first time, right? So agriculture was there in the Garo Hills. We know that. In first chapter it is written. Now it is clearly telling us the name of the site related of the human life, covers the 99% of human history. 99%, that we are also a part of that 99%, right? Okay. Now next is what? Megalithic site, which is denoted by green. Like these megalithic sites are Brahmagiri, Adi Channallur, right? And then these purple sites are early villages like the Mumbai, Inamgaon, right? Inamgaon is the early village. Okay, let's move forward. Now, see, as stone tools were important, people tried to find places where good quality stone was easily available. So this was their most advanced kind of technology, stone tool. So they were doing what? They were also moving for the good quality stone. It is also given. Places where stone was found and where people made tools is so relevant and important that they are clearly defining everything. What is the factory site? Places stone was found and where people made tools, right? So these were the factory sites, like the modern factories. So they used to live also, and then they used to make stones, tools also. So they were called as factory sites. How do we know where these factories were? We find blocks of stone, tools that were made and perhaps discarded because they were not perfect. So many hordes of tools we find, right? And that's how we know that these were the factory sites, because practice, right? They were making again and again until they got the perfect size or the perfect kind of tool that they wanted to make, right? Chips of waste stone left behind at these sites. Sometimes people lived here for longer spells of time, right? And these are called habitation cum factory site. So factory sites became the habitation site also because they had to spend time, right? Sometimes they were taking longer times, longer durations to make weapons, right? Weapons or tools, right? So these were called habitation cum factory sites, right? Now a question has been given for you to practice. If you had to describe the place where you live in, which of the terms would you choose? What do we call that site where we live? So it will be called a habitation site, right? Not a factory site. Okay, now it is telling this information is regarding Bhimbetka. I hope you all can see the clearly the box, right? Is it visible? Please comment down and tell me. Bhimbetka in present day Madhya Pradesh. Where is Bhimbetka and why is it so important? So it is in Madhya Pradesh, and some sites in Bhimbetka, they are known as habitation sites. What are habitation sites? Places where people lived. Okay, these include caves and rock shelters. So what were the places? What were the kind of they were living in? So natural homes. Natural means caves and rock shelters. So they were not having any technology to make home, right? People chose these natural caves. Why? Why were they being chosen as habitation? Because they provided shelter from rain. They were strong, right? Rocks and caves, they are very strong. And rain, heat, wind to protect themselves from these natural forces, right? Natural caves and rock shelters are found in Vindhyas and Deccan Plateau. See, another kind of information that we should remember is that natural cave and rock shelters are found in Deccan and Vindhyas, right? Okay, these rock shelters are close to Narmada Valley, right? What happened in Narmada Valley? Revision time. All of you who were attending the chapter first, tell me what happened for the first time in the Narmada Valley, on the Narmada Valley, right? Okay, now it is also telling us about the sites definition. What are sites? Sites are places where the remains of things were found. So we call them the places where the remains are found, we call them the sites. And then these were made, used and left behind by people. So becomes a part of archaeology, right? And then they may be found on the surface of the earth, buried under the earth, right? Because of many factors and forces, and sometimes even underwater, right? Like the Dwarka city, we find the remains, right? And you will learn more about the different sites in the later chapter, okay? Now, making stone tools. Very, very important. Okay. Yes, making stone tools. See, stone tools, how they were made. Now it is talking about the technology, different technique. First is called stone on stone. This chapter is very important, right? So why NCERTs are important? Because of the conceptual clarity that they give, right? Starting from the basic, they tell us about all the important developments, right, that we should know. So stone on stone, this was the first technique. Here what happened? The pebble from which the tool was to be made was held in one hand, right? Pebble they are holding in one hand, and then another stone which was used as a hammer was held in the other hand, right? And then the second stone was used to strike off flakes from the first, and then till the required shape was obtained. Okay, now second, pressure flaking. So first technique is stone on stone, second technique is pressure flaking. Here the core was placed on a firm space to apply more pressure, right? So it was placed on a firm space. The hammer stone was used on a piece of bone or stone that was placed on the core, so that they can remove the flake and they can get the desired shape, right? Okay, now finding about fire, very, very important. When was the time when the fire was discovered for the first time, right? So Kurnool caves, very important. We saw the site, Kurnool site, right? So it was this place that fire was discovered for the first time. Direct question can come from this information, right? Okay, traces of ash. How do we know that fire was discovered for the first time in Kurnool caves? Because of the traces of ash, and this is how we form history. We reconstruct the history by looking at the evidences and corroborating with the information that has been given, right? So ashes have been found, and this suggests that people were familiar with the use of fire. Now the uses of fire. What were the uses? To scare away the animals, right? To do what? To roast meat, to use it as a light, right? In night, and scare away the animals. Very important. So uses have also been given. Now, what kind of role did environment play? Environment. The climate is changing, right? And then what role did it play? See, around 12,000 years ago, what happened? A sudden change was visible in the environment, right? There were major changes in the climate of the world. So now we are talking about the world, not only India. So climate was changing with a shift to relatively warm conditions, and it will be leading to what? Different kind of activity, different kind of relations with nature, right? Relation of human with nature. In many areas, this led to the development of grassland, right? So grassland emerged, and this in turn led to what? Increase in the number of deer, antelope and goat, sheep and cattle, right? Animals that survived on grass. Next is what? Those who hunted these animals. Now, we know the movement of reason for movement, right? That the animals that they were following, right, for meat. So those who hunted these animals will be now following them, like learning about them, learning about their food habit and their breeding season also. So this was also the reason for the movement. It is likely that this helped people to start thinking about herding and rearing animal. See, very important activity which actually started because of the changing of environment. So complete relation has been established, right? Herding and rearing of animals. This is how it started. Fishing also became important. Next, okay. This was also a time when several grain bearing grasses like wheat, barley, rice grew, right? Now coming to the crops, wheat, barley and rice, they are being grown, right? Just a second, okay. So now crops, they are being grown in different parts of the subcontinent. Now, men, women and children, talking about the population, they collected these grains as food, right? And what are they doing? Now they are learning about it, that when they grew, right, when they ripened, and then they were learning it. Again, next time they were applying it, right? Applying the learning. That is how you get the knowledge, right? So this may have led them to think about growing plants on their own, and then cultivation started, right? Cultivation, agriculture started. Now, names and dates, very important. So, how many phases are there? The phases of history, right? Earliest man, so Paleolithic age is there, Mesolithic age is there, Neolithic age is there, Chalcolithic age is there, Megalithic age is there, right? Different time periods and different years. So, archaeologists, why do they call the earliest ages as Paleolithic? So, what was the kind? See, they are given the name because of the abundance of stone. Paleolithic means what? Paleolithic word comes from two Greek words, paleo meaning old and lithic meaning stone. So they were using what? Based on the technology, right? They were given names. So they were using old technology, old stone technology, raw technology, right? And then the name points to the importance of finds of stone tools. So stone tools were found in abundance, right? And the technology, right, that they were using. The Paleolithic period, it also tells about the time period of Paleolithic age, which is 2 million years ago to 12,000 BCE, right? Okay, this long stretch of time is divided into lower Paleolithic, middle Paleolithic and upper. So Paleolithic is subdivided into 3 parts: Lower Paleolithic, Middle Paleolithic and Upper Paleolithic, right? Paleolithic, this long span of Paleolithic age, this age only covers the 99% of human history, right? This is the relevance of Paleolithic age. 99% of human history on this earth, Paleolithic age covers, right? Only 1% other humans are covering. The period when we find environmental changes beginning about 12,000 years ago till about 10,000 years ago is called Mesolithic. So clearly it is defining, it is telling us about the ages. So Mesolithic is around what? 12,000 to 10,000 years ago, right? A little more advanced technology, right? The group, people started living in group, right? And next what happened? The stone tools found during the Mesolithic period, they are called microliths. So micro tools, microliths are like nanotechnology of today, right? Microliths are what? It was less than 5 centimeters of tools that they were using, micro tools, the nanotechnology of that time. Microliths were probably stuck on to handles of bone or wood to make tools such as saws and sickle. Okay, the next stage is about 10,000 years ago and it is called as Neolithic. So basically the Paleolithic age is totally dependent on the stone tool, stone technology, technique, and lithic is there in every age: Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, Chalcolithic, right? So Neolithic means what? New stone technology, right? So about 10,000 years ago, a new age started which is called Neolithic, right? Which is new stone age. And then we have mentioned the names of some places. We have already seen the Paleolithic sites, the Mesolithic sites and the Neolithic sites, right? Do you remember the sites? Comment yes or no. Do you remember the sites? Okay. Now the rock paintings and what they tell us. Tell me, what do rock paintings tell us? All the students who are live, tell me. So rock paintings are what? The paintings that we find on rocks, right? Many of the caves, right? So in which these early people lived, they have paintings on the walls. Some of the best examples are from Madhya Pradesh and southern Uttar Pradesh. So Madhya Pradesh, what is the name of the site which has all the ages of painting? That is Bhimbetka. Bhimbetka caves we find what? Paintings from the Paleolithic site also, Mesolithic site also, Neolithic site also. Who did what? Now, who was doing what, right? Okay. So we have seen that earliest people hunted, they also gathered plant produce, okay, made stone tools and painted on cave walls. So these are the activities that they are doing. Is there any way of finding out whether women hunted or men made stone tools? Women painted or men gathered fruits and nuts? Do we find any way that tells us about this specific information, that what men were doing and what women were doing, right? Okay, at present we do not really know, right? It was not clearly demarcated, right? Not clearly told, but yes, it is a possibility, right? However, there are at least 2 possibilities. What are they? It is likely that men and women, they both have done many of these things together, right? So there was no concept of what? Inequality, discrimination, feeling of inferiority, right? So they might be doing this together, right? And then it is also possible that some tasks were done only by women and others only by men, right? Okay. Now, ostriches, very important. See, these are just basic facts, nothing but basic facts that we have to remember, right, to get good marks in history. If any of these information can be used, so it will be really good if we are covering NCERTs like this, giving focus to every fact, every information that has been given, which should be relevant, right? Not every fact, but the relevant fact, right? Ostriches were found in India during the Paleolithic period, right? Large quantities of eggshells were found at Patne, not even large quantity. See, large quantities of eggshells are also there, but the painting on the eggshell, right? Geometric patterns have been found on the eggshells at Patne in Maharashtra. Remember this point. This is very, very important. This could be asked. See, designs were engraved on some pieces, right? So eggshells, we find the designs also, right? And beads were also made out of them. Okay, now we are looking at a site which is called Hunsgi, right? So this book also tells us about the definition of factory site and factory cum habitation site. So what are factory sites? Where we find hordes of tools, right? Unfinished tools and the waste material. So that is how we know that this was a factory site. So what is factory cum habitation site? Where people used to live for a longer duration, right? Because they needed to do some certain task. Okay. Okay. Hunsgi. Number of early Paleolithic sites were found at Hunsgi. Very, very important. Tell me the place. Tell me the state of Hunsgi. What is the name of the state? Okay. At some sites we find a large number of tools used for all kind of activity, right? What kind of activity? So hunting, gathering, right? Now these sites like these Hunsgi, they are called habitation cum factory site. Means people used to live also and they used to make tools also, right? In some of the other smaller sites there is evidence that tools were made. So they will be called what? Factory sites, right? Okay. Now the next piece of information. Okay. So we have completed the chapter number 2, which was to the earliest trail of earliest people, to the trail of earliest people. So where people were moving, where they were going, what was the reason for movement, right? We also looked at different sites which are very important and belonging to certain age, like Paleolithic site, right? Bhimbetka, like Mesolithic sites are there, like Neolithic sites are there. So we have to do what? You have to do the homework, that you have to remember all the sites and the characteristic feature related to that site. Okay, now we will meet in the next session, right, and with chapter number 3. So see you in the next session, chapter number 3, and all the best for your preparation. Alchemy IAS is helping you in every way possible. Thank you.